Okay, good afternoon again to everyone to this webinar on career in supply chain. My name is Dr. Saad Hasan and I welcome you all to this very interesting event that we have arranged today. So I welcome you again. So let's without any further ado, let's move right into why we are here for. Today we have a very interesting guest among us. His name is Mr. Iftekhar Chowdhury. He's the head of logistics, Carrefour Sourcing Asia. He's a good friend of mine and a professional who has been working in this area for last 14 years. He started his career in Bangladesh, but we are very proud to say that he has moved to a more senior role internationally because he's based in Hong Kong now. Now he's going to share what kind of career a student can expect in the domain of supply chain. And I'm sure it will be interesting to a lot of our students, and because I know that a lot of the students are thinking about declaring a major in supply chain or minor in supply chain. UIU very proudly has taken up this major in supply chain management from this current semester. And also students have the opportunity to do minor in this subject. So let me please welcome Mr. Iftekhar Chowdhury to start his session. I'm going to make him give him the spotlight now.
Okay.
Spotlight.
Okay, great. Thank you, Saad, for the nice introduction. So I go. Okay, so welcome everyone to the session. My name, as Saad explained, is Iftekhar. I'm based in Hong Kong. I used to work in Bangladesh. I moved here. I moved to China 6 years ago through an internal transfer. I built my career in the shipping industry. I started around 14 years ago working for a freight forwarding company. I started fresh with the background in my times, in the old times, because we're pretty old now, Saad and me, compared to you all. So in our times, we didn't have the privilege of having supply chain as a major, and it's something that we always wish for. In my master's and MBA, I got a chance to do one course in supply chain, but I never really had supply chain as a major option. So I did my major in marketing and HR, which are completely different tracks. In my time, the dream job was to work in telco companies, companies like Grameenphone and Actel. So that was the career perspective all my friends, all my classmates were targeting for. So for me, I don't know really what made me drive this flow, but I had this intention of trying something different. So I did my internship in telco company. I did for, at that time, Ruby was Actel. So I was working for Actel for 6 months. And then I tried my luck in an ad firm, in an advertising firm. And you know, I saw that that's not really the job for me. I didn't really find interest in it. I was working late night events and everything. So it wasn't really the time for me. And then I blindly went and applied for everything that I could. And I ended up working in a freight forwarding company called APL Logistics. So there was something about this industry that really got me hooked up into working in supply chain, building a career in supply chain. So basically what basically does supply chain consist of? There are different aspects of it in supply chain. What my specialty is more in the flow management, what we call shipping. That's where I build my career. There is upstream supply chain where you have the factories working on the raw material. You have downstream where you have the goods arriving at destination. You have the warehousing, distribution to the warehouse. Why supply chain is important? Because you've experienced a very difficult time in the last 1 year with the pandemic, and you've seen a lot of changes have happened throughout the world. One thing that hasn't changed for any of us and for any of you is that you've always found the goods on the shelf of your grocery stores. Whenever you wanted to go to buy something, you in most cases, the shelves were full of products that you needed. The only way that was possible is that despite all the lockdowns, all the difficult situations, we kept the supply chain active. Supply chain is probably one of the most thankless jobs because people don't really understand the effort that goes behind it. There is so much of planning, infrastructure, manpower involved in it. And it's a very systematic thing. So when something doesn't go well, we don't really necessarily understand the impact of it. I can give you a very recent example that you've probably seen in the news about the Suez Canal, where you saw that there was a vessel that got stuck in a canal. So the impact of that is that each day, a transaction of $8 billion. I mean, this Suez Canal is carrying a transaction of 400 million per hour. So you have like $8 billion of transaction being impacted through that. The long chain of it is that you have goods that we were shipping. We had some goods that were in the queue. So there's a delay of 8 to 10 days. And this is causing an impact on the delay and the deliveries to our customers. So supply chain is an end-to-end process where your job is to move the goods from one part of the world to the other. And my job is in Carrefour. It's a French retailer. My job is to make sure that I deliver all the products from Asia that we source to our stores in Europe. So I've basically, to give you a bit of perspective, I've separated the presentation into two parts. One is that I show you a bit of what we've done in Carrefour, this company, and what we are doing in Bangladesh. What are some of the projects that we have done in order to be able to know that. The reason for that is that today, I think the first perspective people have when they saw this notice and when you got the invite for this webinar is that who is this guy? I mean, why should we listen to him? Why should we take career advice from him? Which is quite natural. People have this tendency of not trusting or not understanding someone who comes out of the random place and like, what's so special about it? Or like, who is this guy to tell me what to do? So I'm just going to try to show you a bit of perspective of what we've done. Actions always speak louder than words. So when we show what we've done, it's also important for you to realize the impact that we've done and the hard work that we've gone to. So I try to put my 12 years career in this company into a few slides, which has been difficult. And I've narrowed down on Bangladesh. So I'll just get started with that and then we can move on to the next interactive. So let me know if you can see the screen right now.
We can see the screen.
Okay, perfect. So first, as I said, I will explain a bit about the organization, the Carrefour, the company that I'm representing, where I'm working. Basically, I spent my last 12 years there. So first, an overview about our organization. Basically, we are a retailer. What is a retailer? It's basically the superstores that you see in Dhaka, for example, Agora or Mina Bazaar and these type of superstores where you go and you buy your groceries. We are like that. We are based in Europe, mostly in North Europe. So we have stores in France. The head office is in France, so it's a big French retailer. We have stores in France, Belgium, Poland. In North Europe, we have Mediterranean region, which is Italy, Spain, and Romania. We have a bit of Asia with China and Taiwan, which is relatively small operations, and we are also in Latin America. So we're basically in 3 continents throughout the world. In terms of our size, we are the number 3rd in Europe, and in terms of the worldwide retailers, I'm sure you've all heard of Walmart. They're the number 1. So our position is number 8. We used to be, a few years back, we used to be the 2nd biggest retailer, but due to different competitors entering the market, now we are the number 8 position worldwide. Our yearly sales is 82.6 billion, which is a decent number. We are operating in 30 countries. The total number of employees we have in this organization is 321,000 colleagues worldwide, and we have 12,000 stores all around the world. So in terms of, let's say, the checkouts we have per day is 11 million, means that 11 million customers are coming to our stores worldwide every day. So as you can see, it's a big operation, so which means that we need to be sure that our supply chain is really working to make sure that our customers, when they come to our stores, they get what they want. 2020 has been a good year for us because actually we were a few of the retailers who managed to keep our stores open because we sell food. Because specialist people who send textile or furniture items, they couldn't keep their stores open during lockdown, but for us we could. And but of course, it's been a tough year in terms of maintaining the supply chain because we had people in lockdown, we had people affected. I personally had to run a very important project to send masks for our colleagues who were on the front line. So one of the things that we always say is that when we talk about people who put themselves in the front line, we always think of law enforcement or doctors who are doing it on an everyday, but we don't say enough about supply chain people because they're doing the same basically. They're making sure that in the warehouse, in the stores, everything is delivered on time so that all the customers who come to our stores every day, they don't get deprived and they get what they need. So that is really an important part of supply chain that it plays today because it makes sure that the whole system is running properly. I focus on narrow down on the part of Carrefour organization that I work for. So I work for global sourcing, which means that we are a sister concern of the group. So we don't, our function doesn't necessarily run the stores. We don't get any involvement with the stores. Our job is to source all the products we do from Asia. So when we say Asia, we talk about Bangladesh, China, Hong Kong, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these countries. So these are the countries where we have our own office. I've been privileged to work in 3 offices, and I've had the privilege to go to almost every office for different business purpose and work purpose. This is, where we are. And the point is today, I started my career, as I said, in Bangladesh office. After 7 years, I moved to Shanghai for working there for 5 years. And recently I moved to Hong Kong. So this is definitely an option for me also to explore different sides of supply chain. The supply chain we have in Bangladesh, then the one we have in China is completely different and quite robust in the way it operates today. Now, to narrow it down even more, I say let's talk a bit about my team. So these are the people I work with. So it's these are the people who make the job do every day. Because what's very, very important for all of your careers is that you need to believe in teamwork. Because individualistic approach, the me approach or the I approach doesn't really get you very far. What gets you far is the we approach. And that's what I always believe, is that when we work together as a team, we achieve a lot of great things. So I have team members in Shanghai, in Hong Kong, in Turkey, in India, and in Bangladesh, who are very talented individuals who come from very strong backgrounds, who have been with us for many years and who build their careers around that. In total, I have 12 people in my team running the entire supply chain. Just a few key numbers. So just to give you an idea, we do like 41,000 containers in a year. So I'll explain a bit also what containers mean, because I think some of you are not quite familiar with that. So it's a unit of measurement we use in supply chain and logistics. Now, to narrow down even more on the Bangladesh office, because this is the office that I started my career in 2009, and it's been very close to my heart. So we've been doing a lot of things together. So the office itself was established in 2001. I joined 8 years later. The location is in Uttara. We have 51 staff in our team today, and 6 of them are in supply chain. So supply chain is a strong part of the team and running the operations on a day-in-day basis. We are responsible for the sourcing we do in Bangladesh and Pakistan. Actually, we don't have a separate office in Pakistan, so we run it from Bangladesh. We are working with 52 active suppliers, and these suppliers, most part of them, actually major part of them, are textile suppliers. As you know, Bangladesh, the textile industry contributes to what 81%, I think, of the whole export industry. So the textile is a major commodity that we ship from Bangladesh. We also do a lot of home textile. We do shoes, and we do a lot of houseware in terms of Tupperware from RFL Group and plastic products and different types of commodities. We work with one freight forwarder for sea freight and 5 for air shipment. Forwarders are basically the agents or the third parties who work for us, and they are the ones who are connecting us to the shipping lines, because those big ships that you see, we cannot work with them directly, because we need to have a certain license, a certain export permission to work with these companies. So the freight forwarders are the ones who are doing all the job for us. And also a big part of our admin process, a big part of our system process is managed by us. So when we say the freight forwarders, they are actually an extension of our team today. The freight forwarder that we use in Bangladesh is MGH Group, which is also a big multinational organization. It's one of the biggest, I would say, Bangladeshi multinational organization. And they have operations all across the world. The different airports we use, Dhaka, Chittagong, is quite simple for all of you, and the different ports that we use. So Chittagong, you all know about it because it's the port that everyone talks about. And then there's Dhaka ICD. So I'm going to take a deep dive into Dhaka ICD later on to explain what it means and why do we consider it as a port. The turnover for the office that we do is 185 million USD, which is quite strong. And on a yearly basis, we ship around 56 million units throughout one whole year. So if you remember in the previous slide, I showed you we do 41,000 TEUs. From Bangladesh, we do 4,000, so which is around 10% of the volume is done from Bangladesh today. These are just some facts about Chittagong and Dhaka, so I won't go into that because it's something that you guys can easily Google and find out. So I wanted to talk about a few projects that we are very proud of that we did in Bangladesh, and then we can take a deep dive into that. So the first thing, yeah, like I said, just to give you a bit of brief introduction what the containers are. So basically these are, I'm sure you've seen them across the road, carried on trucks and everything. So the containers are the units that we use to move our goods. There are different sizes. There are 20, 40 and high cube containers. The point is to optimize the maximum space of it. Basically, when you pay for a container, you pay for the whole box. So whatever you can put in it, whatever you can fill up in it is up to you. Whatever empty space you have inside of it, that's the amount you use. So container optimization means basically how much of the containers are you fulfilling. So when I took over the role in 2009, I was coming from freight forwarding background, and I was seeing that systematically we were closing containers at a very low level. We were optimizing at 60%, 70%. So I worked on this as a project, and I worked on making sure that we optimize the containers as much as we can and fill up the gaps and make sure that we use every single space that we can use in a container. The result of that has been fundamental, is that it took us 3 years to achieve a good optimization level, a decent optimization level. And I can say today, if we look at the different countries we have, Bangladesh is still one of the highest countries in terms of optimization of the container, like how much space we fill up. So in 3 years, let's say in 2011, we made the biggest savings in terms of optimization, is that we saved around $184,000 for the company. So that's a big achievement that we are proud of. Another project that took us quite a while. So this was a famous project that we did. So we were the pioneers in that. So I'm going to take a deep dive into this afterwards. So I'll just give you some brief facts about this project. Is that this project helped us to remove 4,000 trucks from the Dhaka-Chittagong highway. Dhaka-Chittagong highway, it's just 250 kilometers, but it's a very long route in terms of time that it takes for vendors to deliver their goods. So basically, it can take up to 12 to 24 hours, even sometimes 48 hours to deliver the goods, depending on the situation on the roads. So this is something we have bypassed. Today, we ship everything from Dhaka. It made a savings of 250K for us in terms of transportation cost, and another $290,000 in terms of conversion to go for this process. And definitely one of the problems we were facing before in Dhaka-Chittagong is that we were having a lot of goods stolen. You know, when you were having trucks being kidnapped, or sometimes goods being removed during transit. So when we were receiving the goods in Chittagong, we were opening the containers and we were finding empty cartons inside. This has stopped once we moved to Dhaka ICD, which is closer to the factory. So it's helped us to reduce a lot of cases of stolen and lost goods. This is also another project that we're proud of. So basically, export relates to a lot of documentation. To give you an idea, we have on a yearly basis, we had like close to 500 DHL pouches sent from let's say, if we just talk about Bangladesh, so just from Bangladesh to Europe, we had roughly 5,000 pouches sent every year. So these were, sorry, 500, my mistake. So 500 pouches sent every year. So these pouches, of course, were costing a lot in terms of paper. You're printing a lot of paper. You're paying a lot of courier fee on that. So what we did is we made the entire process digital. Is that everything is on a digital library. It's a web-based library, and it took us a while to do that. We had to discuss with the different custom authorities in the countries. We have to talk with different peoples and all that to convince them to go with this process. And finally, the end result is that we finished this project recently, so that's why it's very close to us, is that we converted the last country, which was Brazil, in it. And now everything is paperless. So we don't save anything, we don't send any courier documents to the countries anymore. And if you look at the green approach, it's also very important for the environment, because when you send a lot of paper, you have to print a lot of paper, a lot of wastage in documentation. Today, through the digital library where everything is available online, we don't need to send anymore. So apart from the cost factor, there's also the environmental sustainability factor, which is important for a company like us. Now, I'm going to take a deep dive into the Dhaka ICT project, because just wanted to show you guys that why this project took us, because we started the research in 2012 and we finished it in 2016. So why it took us 4 years, that's important for everyone to understand. So this is basically how the process works. So don't get lost with the graphics. So it's a big thing, but the main bottom line is that we had a defined process that started from the cargo delivery, went on to QC, goods delivered, trucks moving to Chittagong. Then there is a consolidation, there is a delivery to the port, there is a pickup of the container. There was a very lengthy process in that. So what we thought is that today we are losing a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy into sending everything downstream to Chittagong, which is very congested. You have a lot of hiccups, you have the weather conditions, everything that's against you. So why don't we explore something which is closer to our factories? So these are basically, to give you an idea, this is where the suppliers are located, and you can see from the area, from the map, most of them are very close to Dhaka. So what we thought is, why don't we explore an option to put, let's say, bring everything to Dhaka and use the Dhaka ICD facility, which is in Komlapur. Now I'm sure you guys, sometimes when you're struck in traffic, you see all those containers passing, in front of you on the Dhaka, on the train that's coming from Komlapur ICD. That's the one that we were exploring. So since my childhood, I've always been, wondering, like, where do all these containers come from? Like, what's going on? Where are they going? So we found this option to explore this untapped area because people were not using it enough. So we found a facility in close to the Komlapur rail station, which has the advantage of stuffing containers, building the containers closer to the factories. You don't have to do a long transportation. And the Dhaka Chittagong highway thing that I explained, you don't need to go through that nightmare. Suppliers are taking 2 to 3 hours to deliver, and we can move directly, put it on the train and move the containers directly to Dhaka. So this is a very important process that we built up. It took us a while to do because there was a lot of studies that we had to go through and study on that. So this is some of the key process that how it works. It's no big complication, is that we had suppliers deliver the goods to the facility. It goes by train, it goes inside the port directly. So there was another problem that we were facing in Chittagong, is that from the warehouse to the port, there was again another congestion. So this is something we avoided. The train goes directly inside the port and we can load directly on the vessels. Of course, these are the opportunities we talked about. Suppliers are based in Dhaka. You have no case of pilferage, which means that goods getting stolen. Yes, we also had this case 2007, yeah, before I joined the company. We had this flood in Chittagong, which was very bad. The result of this flood is that we had huge number of goods getting damaged because the flood, it got inside the containers. We had goods in the warehouse that got completely disaster. It was caused by, a mountain slide in near the port, near the warehouse actually. So it had an impact on the goods. So we had to go through a huge financial loss in 2007 because of that. The other advantage of Dhaka ICD is that you guys who are living in Dhaka, you see that you don't really have a lot of floods in Dhaka. Yes, you do have water clogs here and there, but it's not at the level of having that sort of goods where you're covered in the water for a long time. And the facility that we chose in Dhaka ICD, it's already quite high, so we don't have the risk of getting goods damaged. Transit time, as I said, for the factories is 2 to 3 hours, and the operations are run by our forwarder directly. Now, why I wanted to show this is that we did have to face a lot of challenge. And why did it take us 3 years to do this? Basically, when we started it, there were train schedules. I know you guys who travel by train, you see that train schedules are never on time. So this is one of the challenges we had to face with. There was no enough equipment in the ICD availability. There was passenger trains were getting priority and all that. So this is what we need to work with, what we needed to improve. So we worked with the different authorities. Myself, I went, we call this word it sounds better in Bangla, jeep. So I had this jeep to, really to get things moving and say, like, why we can't do it? Why do we need to avoid going through the different complications and work on it? So it took us a while to meet different authorities to fix the different blocking points. And finally, it took us 3 years to do the first trial. And the trial went well. We did a few with the suppliers. The suppliers have helped us to make it working properly. And today, I would say 90-95% of our shipments are moving through this option. Now, we have been the pioneers in this, being the first movers. And today, other companies like us, other retailers like us, they want to follow because they see the problem that you have in the Chittagong with the delivery to the CFS, to the warehouse. So they want to follow us. So this has been a fundamental thing for us that we are personally very proud of. This is how the facility looks like, just a few pictures. And this is how the process looks like, which also does save us around 2 to 3 days in terms of transit time, in terms of delivery timeline. And in supply chain, time is money. You have to be on time as much as we can, especially in Bangladesh, where people have a tendency of being late. So you have suppliers who are always delivering very late and all that. So for this facility, it helps us save another 2 3 days and gives it to the exporter. So that's how it works. Another upcoming project, just to share with you, also, which is something that we want to do, is milk run. So milk run is an interesting concept in supply chain, in flow management. Basically, as you saw, that the factories are located very close to each other. So we want to go one level higher than what we did before. What we did before was all the suppliers, they were delivering individual trucks to the factory, to the warehouse. Today, we want to take one truck and we want to go to different factories to pick it up, and then the whole truck comes to the warehouse. The advantage of this is that you remove several trucks arriving at the same time. You do better consolidation of your containers, and you don't need to handle several times in the warehouse. So this is a project that we have in the pipe and we want to do. And again, it's something that if we are capable in doing it, probably we will be the first movers in this. One of the key things in supply chain that we want to believe in, and that's related to your career in supply chain, is that you need to be capable to constantly drive and try new things. There are experiments that you're going to fail with. Of course, I have a lot of failures in my career in supply chain. I can make a whole presentation with the number of failures that I've had, but I've never really backed down from it, and I've tried to do it in a different way. So that's important, that you need to have that perseverance in supply chain, and you need to have that capability to constantly try new things. Because if you're just happy with what you're doing, yeah, for sure you can continue your job, but you're not going to go to the next step. And I think for career progression, for moving ahead, you need to constantly see, if your management is looking at you, they're going to look at the guy who is willing to constantly change himself, instead of the guy who is just happy to do his 9 to 6 job. So that's a really important part of your career perspective that you need to consider. You need to be able to study new things. You need to be open to new things outside in what's going on, what are the other people doing, what we can do differently, what do we need to improve on our side. And the more you open yourself up to new things, the more you get out of your shell and your comfort zone, the more career prospect will get better for you. That's really important factor that's helped me personally. So yeah, when we talk about career, about supply chain career, there can be different aspects of it. Like if you work in a factory, in a manufacturing factory, which is also a very well-respected job, you can have a supply chain career in lean management, where you can work on the different productivity capacities. You can work with the factories in terms of improving their supply chain and their reliability. One factory that I was personally very interested to visit is Zabir and Zubair. They make home textile, bed linen. Basically, this factory is a whole industrial supply chain solution. You have raw materials coming in one side. They're doing the manufacturing themselves. They're doing the palletization. They're doing the packaging themselves. It's very amazing the way that they run their supply chain. So there are a lot of factories in Bangladesh who are capable of running very good supply chain. So that's one career you can build your perspective. Then, of course, there is the shipping industry. The one that I built my career with, I started my career with, is freight forwarding and shipping companies. This is also another important part of supply chain. You have a lot of new things coming in. You're moving goods. One of the best part of it, and that's the most rewarding part of my career, is that through supply chain, you can give people solutions. when people are in trouble, people are stuck, they are blocked in different aspects, they come to supply chain to get solutions. We are kind of the, let's say, the bottleneck where you have all the problems coming in, and our job is to ease the solution and to make sure every problem that we have in production, in technical aspects, or anything that goes on with the factories, we are the ones who are responsible for untying the solutions. So that's why if you're a person who likes to give solutions and who likes to help others, you should choose a career in supply chain, because that's where you get to help people, you get that satisfaction. Yes, it's true that every time you won't get a thank you from people because human nature is like that, they forget very easily. But it's more of a self-satisfaction you have to have within yourself, that I feel good for helping someone. That's how we build up. So when I show hierarchy or career in supply chain, I cannot show you something that's in the industry. Like, different companies have different structures. For example, we have a Swedish company, IKEA, who makes home furnishing. They have a different level of supply chain. We have Decathlon, who has a French company who makes sportswear items. I think they have one showroom in Dhaka also. So Decathlon has a different level of supply chain, and they have different supply chain engineers who are working on different aspects. What I will show you is supply chain career in our organization, in Carrefour, in where we're working. And this is basically how I build up and how I made through different progression in my career. So for the starting point, it starts at the level of the logistics coordinator, which is the entry level position that we have. So for this position, usually the requirement is to have 1 or 2 years in freight forwarding or shipping experience. Now, many people might ask is, why don't you hire fresh people, fresh graduates? The problem of that is that when you're in a retail logistics supply chain, you are already expected to be sort of an expert in knowing the basics, because your job is to guide the freight forwarding companies, is to guide the shipping lines. So if you don't know the basics, it's going to be difficult for you to survive and to really prove yourself. So that's why we need somebody to build the basics. And for me personally, for shipping, freight forwarding or shipping lines are the perfect place for you to build the basics. You work on a daily basis, you go into containers. I used to go to the warehouse, and I can tell you, I used to be inside containers, which is like 50 degrees hot, and I was still there because I was working myself to make sure that I learned the process. One important thing that I wanted to share, that at the beginning of my career, when all my friends and who were graduating from North-South University, at that time they were all targeting like good salary levels, 25, 30,000 at that level. It was like, okay, if I don't get a job at 30,000, I won't join a company. They were being that selective. I think I was the only guy who decided to go, okay, for me, salary doesn't matter. I start my career at somewhere, and then I will see how it goes. So I started my first career at 12,000 taka salary, which was a fairly low salary at that time for people coming from a background. And for me, that was the experience was more to learn and to see where it takes me. And I've always believed that people are very ambitious in terms of the career perspective, but I've seen far too many people who have chosen the path of the like higher salary or higher structure, and they've gone for the wrong job, which they're not fit for, and where there's no scope for learning new things. And probably they do have a good salary for a few years, but they're never really happy with their job, so they can't really progress themselves. For me, I never chased behind the money. So for me, when I moved on to one career progression to the other, naturally I've had an evolution in my salary and in my structure. So I never really chased for the money, because that really doesn't get you anything. One of the things that I was telling Saad before this discussion is that it's difficult to talk about your own career, because when you say that, people think that you're actually showing off but it's not actually a show off. But what we are explaining is a real life experience, because we often have this tendency of going off the track because we lose focus on what we should do. For me, in your 20s and your 30s, let's say up to 40, 45, you shouldn't really go for just like, you know, I'm getting a good salary, I settle down, I want to do this for the rest of my life. What you should do is to constantly challenge yourself, evolve yourself, try new things, experiment new things. And in order to do that, you can move on to one level to the other. So for me, that's what I've done for the last 12 years. So I started as a logistics coordinator, then I moved to the specialist position, then I became a logistics manager. I became a regional logistics manager, where I took over the different regions, what we call, like, for example, subcontinent region or Southeast Asia region. Then I became a senior logistics manager, and today I'm head of logistics. So I still have one carrot in front of me, which is the position of the supply chain director. But for me, the point is, I've never really settled down and said that, okay, I'll become logistics manager, fine, today I get a good salary, I have a respectable job. I will just settle down and make sure I do my job every day. I do the minimum not to get fired, and I get my job done. That would have gotten me nowhere. You know, at one point, like when management think of who to promote as the new guy or who to move into, they won't consider that guy who's just happy to do what he's doing. They will look for the guy who's willing to challenge himself, take himself to the extra level, to the next level, and to put that extra effort in his job. So that's really important for whether you choose your career in supply chain or somewhere else, is to constantly evolve. You know? There's a tendency of many people is that when they face a problem, they give up easily, saying, I did my 100%, I did my maximum. I don't tend to believe them, because the point is, when you say you did your 100%, maybe you won't solve the problem, but you're going to get 80% or 30% of the job done. So depends on how much effort you put. So the thing is, yes, you can't solve the problem, but if you can solve 80% of it, or if you can solve 50% of it, it's already a lot. And that's something that you need to give to yourself. So that's really, let's say, my 2 cents advice to you, is that never give up at the first obstacle you face. The obstacles that I faced in my career is a lot. I mean, first of all, people, there was a given part of my career that people tend to push me aside, saying, he's choto chele, kichu bujhe na. Small, you know, is a very young guy, doesn't really understand anything. Because I joined an organization where everyone was above 35, 40, that age, and I was the guy who's the early 20s. So for me, I was the youngest guy around, and they were really not considering me as a serious guy. But through my actions and through my active participation, I've changed that mindset. And the same has happened to me in when I moved to China, or when I moved to Asia, is that people, when they see someone from Bangladesh, they think that, okay, this guy from Bangladesh, we can dominate him. I work for a French company, and French people like to dominate others. So they were thinking, like, we can dominate this guy. But every time we've had these discussions with them, every time we've had a meeting on that, I've changed their perception by the end of the meeting, saying that I'm not somebody who is willing to get pushed by you, or someone who is willing to change the way I work with. So there is always, you should have this tendency in yourself, is to prove people wrong by your actions and by showing the respect. Sometimes we also lose this tendency, we get disrespectful, you know, we start going for personal insults and everything. I never had to do that. For me, I was always respectful for the person that I work with, but I managed to show them that I'm not just somebody who's willing to be pushed around, but I'm somebody who can definitely contribute to the business. And that's what has helped me get to what I'm doing for. So when we look in supply chain careers, and this is going to be the last slide, is that there are a couple of skill sets that we look for. Definitely hard skills and soft skills. So when we talk about hard skills, it's definitely language. So this is something I really emphasize on because language can be stronger than any degree, any how to say, any education that you get. It can take you to wonders. Today, like for me, I'm in China. One of the difficulties I have today is that I can't speak Mandarin. I cannot speak Chinese, and this has made some disadvantage for me. Um, but what I've tried to do from my childhood, and my father, who used to be a government servant, so he worked for the government, so we used to travel a lot. So my father, one thing that he really helped me to do is he always made me speak in English within the family. When we were in very childhood level, me and my brothers, we always used to communicate in English. The reason for that is that the speaking language would get better. We get easier familiar with. Even and this is I haven't seen a lot of families like that. Even when I was small, we were not allowed to watch Bangla movies or Hindi movies. We could only watch English movies, children English movies, and so we could watch only English movies because my father's perspective is if you watch the movies, your English level will improve. So I would personally say to you guys who are at a very young level, try to watch as much as you can English movies, good ones, English series, good ones. For example, you're not going to learn anything if you watch Game of Thrones. You're probably going to need to watch something more interesting like The Suits, which is very interesting. It's about lawyers and everything. So the way they communicate is very strong and influential. So that's something you can learn in terms of language. So this will help you a lot into building your language skills, and try to watch it without subtitles because that helps you to improve your listening and to the way you communicate. So language has been the strongest force for me in my career because people when they come to talk to us from different countries, they expect that English is not our first language, so present something or explain something. And for me, every time I've proven them wrong. I've proven them that no, I'm capable of making a speech in English. I'm capable to explain a complex process in English, and this has really helped me a lot in my career. So another thing that my father also helped me to do is whenever we went to travel anywhere, he used to make me write. And when I was young, I used to hate that a lot. Like, why does he make me write these essays and these stories about what we did? That has helped to improve my communication skills, my typing skills. Today, when I write an email or when I write a process, I write it in a way which is understandable. I don't write it in a way which is complex for people to understand. And that helps a lot also to communicate to people all around the world. So language, again, I would encourage you guys in the young generation to really emphasize on this. Focus on one language. If you can learn Chinese, fine, you learn Chinese, you focus on that and you improve your Chinese. Mandarin will be, I think it will be soon one of the strongest languages in the world. If you want to learn French also, it's good language to use worldwide. You can use it in different countries. If you want to learn Spanish, that's also fine. But focus on one language, improve it. And this is something that's going to get you to a long way in your career, no matter what career you choose. Of course, a bachelor's degree is something that you need to have. So what you're doing today, you need to finish it. Make sure that you go through all the way. One thing I want to emphasize to everyone is that a lot of people think that if you don't have a master's degree, you can't get a good job, which is a wrong concept. You can get a job with a bachelor's degree. Of course, an MBA helps you in the later part of your career. For example, for me, I did my MBA. It took me almost 4 years because I was doing my work and my MBA, so I skipped a lot of classes and everything. But I finally did it. I never gave up. And this has helped me in my career progression to move on to the different higher levels. Because when you're going to a senior manager level, that becomes a bit of importance in some organizations. Office applications, of course, you need to know very well Excel, Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. These are some basic stuff. So you learn it already in the university. You can find a lot of short courses online to do that type of stuff. YouTube is a good source of it. So you can always study and try different applications. This will really help you a lot in your job. Then, of course, in some of you, I'm sure there are a few guys who are very good with IT, software, and solving the computer problems. So these type of guys are good in terms of the job that we do, because we work on a lot of problem solving. So I know a lot of organizations, for example, when they hire people, they give them case studies, which is interesting because it's not about the right or wrong answer. It's the way that you think. That's how they judge you. So that's very important for your career progression. And supply chain companies look for people who are good in problem solving. Of course, you need to have a few years experience in job experience. So hard skills is something that is teachable, that you learn through some training and skills. For us, to be honest, what we look for is more on the soft skills, because soft skills is inbuilt in your DNA. It's in the structure, in the personality. So this is something that you can't really train somebody on. It's how they have been brought up, how they have lived their lives and everything. Where hard skill you can train, soft skill is something that's inbuilt in somebody. So of course, good communication, being able to talk to people, communicate well. There is always this word that guys who are the good chababas publics are always good in marketing jobs. I would say the same in supply chain. If you are good in explaining your process to people, and if you're good in convincing others, you have a good prospect in supply chain. Leadership and teamwork. So within your friends, you will always see this guy who takes the lead to go out to plan some family programs or to plan some friend programs and everything. So this guy is actually a leader in himself. So we look for people who have that leadership technique, because you need to lead a team, you need to lead people, you need to drive the force, and of course you need to have that we approach, not the me approach. So it's like he's capable to work as a team and to work with people. Time management is extremely important, because we have this tendency in Bangladesh, we have a term for it, Bengali time. Let's be careful, is that internationally it's a different thing. People are very strict about time management. So when you say 5 o'clock, it's 5 p.m. 5 o'clock. It's not 5:05. It's not 5:10. It's exactly 5. So this is a characteristic that we need to build within ourselves, is to be on time, not to take things lightly, because that brings a lot of things. Flexibility and adaptability. So you need to be flexible to work in different conditions, different environmental factors, which is important for everyone, because you need to have that mindset that I'm willing to change myself depending on the situation. I can give you a very personal example for this, is that myself, I never smoke or drink. But all my friends that I mix with, all the people at the corporate level, they either smoke or drink all the time. But for me, I never stop myself from mixing with them, because I have that control in myself to be able to choose if I do it or not. So that's something of a self-control you need to have. When I joined a French company, everyone told me, French drinking is part of the French culture. You need to learn to drink and smoke. I worked 12 years in a French company. I never had to drink or smoke. So if you can keep within yourself your own self-control, then you can be capable and flexible as you want. I had one ex-colleague who was very religious minded, so he never joined any of the French colleagues when they went out or interacted. So at one point they stopped considering him for serious level jobs or serious level assignments. For me, yes, you can join the people at doing what they are doing, but you don't necessarily need to participate in their activities. If you want to reserve yourself that I don't want to go with it, I don't want to drink with it, it's fine. You can choose to do that. And another thing that we often think that foreign people don't understand or they don't respect. For me, I've seen it contrary. They very much respect the person who is capable to control himself, because for them, they are thinking, okay, this guy can control himself to drink or smoke. It means that he's a very good person at his work. He has this self-control and he has this adaptability. Patience is also something that you need to have, very important, because there are a lot of things that in supply chain are going to happen to you in a very unfair way, and you're going to have to get used to it. So you need to have that patience in order to be able to deal with different tough situations. So I'll just end with one comment from one quote from Steve Jobs, is that the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle, because we often get caught into the wrong jobs that we're not built for and we're not ready for it. So it's important to find the job that really inspires you. For me, personally, when I joined this organization, Carrefour, I saw a couple of things. Is that the management is very down to earth. He's very nice person, honest person. He's down to earth. He's not showing off like, I'm a country manager, I don't talk to you like that. He's very down to earth person. And the second thing that I saw is that all the people are internally promoted, is that they're not hiring people from outside as a senior manager. If there is someone in the company who is capable, they're promoting that. So for me, that's an important factor. Whenever you join an organization, you need to study the culture. If you see that the culture is really like a multinational where you're getting the respect and honor that you deserve, you can stay there. But I wouldn't recommend you to settle down for something less, because that impacts your mind, it impacts your mood, and you won't be happy at your job. So that's about it, what I wanted to share. So I think we can open the questionnaire session now. Saad, if you want to add something. I think I covered everything that I had to say from my side.
First of all, thank you very much, Iftekhar. It was very revealing, and you shared a lot of details about your practical work, your practical experience. I'm sure our audience, who are mostly young students, would have learned a lot of insights about how an actual supply chain job looks like. But I'm sure there are other challenges, but I think that it's a very eye-opening session and very helpful for students who are embarking on their careers soon enough. Thank you very much, Iftekhar. I had few questions that I'm going to quickly ask.
Sure.
First of all, Faizul Bashar has asked, sir, does freight forwarding include all the tasks from sourcing the product or raw materials, handling them to the container and board them to ship?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Faizul. So yeah, actually, we are responsible for the whole thing, as you say. So we have to source the products. We have to tell the suppliers where to get the raw material from, what type of raw material they need to get. So this is the merchandising side of the job. So commercial, what we call them. So we have a commercial team for that. We have a production team who makes sure that the manufacturing is going on time. And then supply chain takes responsibility. So in supply chain, we have, like I said, we have 6 people in supply chain. 2 people are for logistics. 3 are for operation management, what we call order management and supply. And we have 1 person for systems. So that's how we make the whole organization for supply chain. So everyone is doing their part. So we have to make sure that from the production, order, sourcing to shipment, we are responsible for it as a whole. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Iftekhar. I have another question from Jahid Hussain.
Okay.
The question is, with due respects to sir, I would like to know, is there any suggestions for final year BBA students to build up a career in supply chain management in any well-known MNC? I actually wanted to know what are the initial steps we should take. Thanks in advance.
Yeah. So, Jahid, for this one, well, like I said, if you want to build your career in supply chain, you can go into different aspects. So if you go to the factory side, the manufacturing side, you can work on manufacturing, production, and lean management, which is a different level of supply chain. If you would like to build a career in what I have done is freight forwarding. So freight forwarding, there's a lot of multinational freight forwardings out there who are hiring people and who are looking for young, talented people. My own cousin, he's graduated also from UIU, and he's working for a French freight forwarding company. So there are people who are out there that are hiring young guys like you, and you don't necessarily need to have that. If you're a final year student and you haven't done a major in supply chain, it should not be a blocking point for you. You can still secure, as I said, my major was HR and marketing, so I managed to secure a job in supply chain. So it's capable, you can do that also.
Right, thank you. Our next question is from Mesbah. I think you have answered it already, but still, okay. I think he's trying to ask whether you think that you need to do a major in supply chain or minor is sufficient.
Yeah. So like I said, it's not necessary to do a supply chain, but if you have the opportunity to, in my time, I didn't have this option, so I couldn't do it. But I'm sure if I did have an option as a supply chain as a major, I probably would have done it, because this is something that really inspires me and makes me happy. So if you do have the option to do it, go for it, because definitely it's something that helps you build up different aspects of it. However, what you learn in your books probably will be a lot different, because I'm sure Saad and all your teachers who are teaching supply chain, they will show you the whole end-to-end process. What I explained to you is just a small part. So you have the upstream, the downstream, the different aspects of it. So yeah, it's definitely a good option for studying. Yeah.
All right. So we have another question from Nusrat. Well, I think Nusrat, your question is more about academic. She wants to know about PhD scholarship. Okay. So I think Iftekhar is very much an industry person. So probably it's not his area of interest. But let me ask another question from Shiju. And one second, please. Shiju is asking. The question is, I'm not sure what is the question. He has pointed out some, I think, roles: purchasing, procurement, human resource. So I'm going to skip it. I'm not sure what is the question. Next question is from Fahim. Fahim has asked, how do you prepare supply for an unexpected situation like COVID, flood, etc.?
Yeah, you never prepare yourself for that stuff. You learn as you go. For us, we were not prepared for the COVID for sure. But what we made sure is that we had to keep going. That's important, because we didn't let the obstacles stop us. So we become adaptable. So you need to be adaptable to the situation. You can't say like, okay, it's COVID. I'm staying at home. I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I'm scared to go out. No, we were also at home, but we were still working and making sure that the supply chain is working. So you can't really stop working. You can't really prepare yourself for this unexpected situation. But for example, for a flood, yes, we did take precaution. Like I said, we had an experience in Chittagong. We moved to Dhaka, where we had options of no flooding from that area. So that's something that you can prepare yourself for sure.
Okay, we have another question from Sanjida. Okay, now she had the same question. Mashur Muntamim. His question is, what do you do to build a positive relationship with the vendors, both here and abroad? Are there any special hacks to make the vendor happy?
Okay. Well, the hack is to be humble, you know. And I was telling that to my colleague this week, who is based in Dhaka. So I was just discussing with him about this, is that no matter where you go, you need to be humble, because one thing we need to often remember is that we cannot forget our roots. So me, when I come from a very struggling career start. So if I decide today that I'm head of logistics and I will not talk to anyone, I will not communicate with any supplier or vendor, I'm completely wrong. So the point is to be humble, to be nice, to respect the people, because that's very, very important, that you need to show the person the respect. Even if he's your vendor, he needs to be respected for who he is, who he or she is. It's very important to show the respect. So yeah, we need to be answerable. Sometimes we are busy. Even sometimes when people reach out to me or something, I answer them back that sorry, I couldn't answer your call, etc. And try to reply back to them. So it's important to be humble and to be accessible. But of course, you sometimes cannot do, because you have too many questions to ask. So yeah, it depends on how you can do it.
All right, I think we have run out of time to actually for the questions, but it was an enthralling sessions, and thank you again very much, Iftekhar. And I would like to now call upon our Director of BBA Program, Professor Dr. Badruddozza Mia, sir, to please deliver his vote of thanks. Sir, are you available, sir? I'm making you the co-host.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. It was a very nice talk from Mr. Iftekhar Chowdhury. I liked his talking and the manner and the wording and the mindset, actually, what actually he has shown to us, to all of us. Thank you so much. My heartfelt thanks to Mr. Iftekhar Chowdhury for his nice speech, and for a Bangladeshi people. You are actually, I would like to thank you so much, and you are proud of us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to thank all the students and teachers who joined here. And I hope that students will be very much benefited for their career planning from the talk of Mr. Iftekhar. And my special thanks to Dr. Saad Hasan for organizing such a nice session for our students and faculty members. Thank you so much, and we hope that this type of talk will be going on in our university from the experts like Iftekhar Chowdhury. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Again, on that note, again, I would like to thank Mr. Iftekhar Chowdhury, my dear friend, and I'd like to congratulate him on his success. And again, let me remind our students that UIU, in a very prudent decisions they have made, is that we're offering a supply chain major from this semester. And we are one of the few universities we have started doing that, keeping in mind the market demand and the prospects. So I'm sure, and another thing I would like to add, that supply chain is a very applied course where industry interaction is paramount. I mean, you cannot have a supply chain major and teach supply chain without having industry interactions. So I think this session is the start of many, and we can count upon Mr. Iftekhar for our future help as well, hopefully.
Sure.
And I would like to thank him again, and I would like to thank sir, and I would like to thank our students and everybody involved in helping this webinar happen. Thank you very much. And with that end, I would end this session. Thank you. Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.